background in data science. So talking about mental health, he's a techie as well. And yeah, I think David, at that point, I'll invite you. Please, maybe you can take over.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nancy, for this opportunity, and good evening, everyone. So yes, I'm David, co-founder and CEO of Doctor's Life. So at Doctor's Life, we are trying to make mental health services accessible to everyone, individuals and organizations. As you can see currently, like mental health is now a pandemic. It's even bigger than the COVID-19. So I thought it was my responsibility to try and build something that can help the community and especially the youth of our country. Thank you, Nancy. I'm here with my colleague, Claire. Claire, I don't know if you are there. You can. Hi, Claire. Can you hear me? Okay, I think we have a problem with Claire. We'll just wait for her to see. But yes, Nancy, I think that was a brief introduction about me. Yes, I have a background in data science and analytics, but I'm trying to use data to alleviate the burden that are caused by mental health issues. And that's why I've built Doctor's Life to help as much as many people to access mental health services and care. Thank you. Yes, Nancy, are you there?
Yes. I'm here.
Yes, I will invite.
I think Claire is back with us, so maybe.
Yeah, I think she's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take this opportunity to invite Claire, one of our psychologists at Doctor's Life, to talk about the topic of today, like burnout and Zoom fatigue, and which are part of the causes of mental health issues. For those who are familiar with some of the triggers that can cause mental health issues. Claire has a background in psychology with over 7 years of experience in clinical psychology and counseling. Claire, if you are there, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Claire, I don't know if you're able to unmute. And if you
can't hear us.
Oh, okay. Maybe Claire, you can try leaving the meeting and then rejoin. See if that will fix the problem from your end. Let me just text you. Claire, if you can hear me, maybe you can try leave the meeting and then rejoin. See if that fixes the problem. Okay.
I think Claire, she's joining with another device, the meeting. So maybe you can give her like some few more minutes to see.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Claire. I think now
Hi.
I can hear you.
I was having issues with.
Okay, sure. It's okay. Oh, I think you're muted. Maybe you can try and yes.
Okay, so we can go ahead and begin. Sorry, I was not able to catch up, but I'm so glad to be part of this amazing yet important conversation today. My name is Claire Omolo. I'm a psychologist and mental health consultant. And today we are here to discuss about an amazing topic, like I was saying, something that relates to all of us, something that is an issue of concern, especially with the kind of environment that we are living in. Our topic for today is on mental health, burnout, and Zoom fatigue. And my hope is that probably we can be able to contribute and have a discussion as much as possible for us to come up with solution and be able to explain how we feel about this topic entirely. So before I start this conversation, normally I like it that when we're doing such kind of talks, we are able to contribute because it is something that relates to all of us. So I will just pose a question and our moderator will help read through the chat box so that we're able to hear people's views at the same time. So like I was saying, our topic is on mental health, burnout, and Zoom fatigue. But before we begin, I'd like to pose a question. What is mental health? And by show of hands, how many people know what mental health is? And if we have two people to probably just unmute and tell us what they know about mental health. Back to you, moderator.
Okay, maybe I think it's easier if you can all chat or write in the chat box and I'll be able to read that aloud. So feel free to, I think everyone is enabled to do that. You can just highlight again, like Claire has said, we need to make this an engaging conversation since it's something we are all dealing with, regardless of which area in tech you're from. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe just a minute. Okay, so Kevin has said it's social, emotional, and behavioral well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read the answers as they come in.
Yes.
Bill has said it's the health of the brain. Chris has said it's the well-being of mental. Okay. What is mental health, guys? We've had this term so many times. So
Yeah. Mhm.
what is
Feel
mental
free,
health?
feel free to chat in the box. And if you feel that you also want to unmute and just also elaborate on it, that's also allowed. So I'll give us 1 more minute. Okay, so we can begin by defining what mental health is. So I love it that at least we have some knowledge or information about what mental health is. But before we go to the definition that we have on this slide, I want us to all know that mental health does not mean an absence of a disease. We come in a society, and especially in the African or traditional African society, when you pose a question what mental health is, what comes into individual's mind is, like in the Kikuyu culture, people say mugoroki, like someone who's lost their mind. In Luo culture, they say juogi, witchcraft. So different people have different perception about what mental health is. But according to the World Health Organization, they say that mental health is actually a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential, they can cope with daily life challenges and achieve their goals. So that is what mental health is. From that definition, we don't hear kugoroka or wazimu like we hear it in our daily life activities. So mental health is a topic that needs to be talked about because many times we focus on our physical well-being. When you hurt your leg, you'll go to see a doctor. When you have probably a chronic illness like diabetes or hypertension, you'll go see a doctor. But most of the time when you report to be having low moods, you're sad, or you're seeing things that are not there, or hearing voices, then people don't take it seriously. So the main aim of this discussion today is so that we are able to understand deeply what mental health is, and for people in Shihaps, Kenya, to be able to understand how your job area can also directly or indirectly affect your mental health. So we'll proceed. So having that information about what mental health is, we'll therefore go forward and look at what mental illnesses or what mental disorders is. And I want us to get this point clearly. We began by saying that mental health is that state in which you're able to cope with daily life challenges, achieve your goals, and be productive within the society. So many a times we may not be able to achieve what we want, or we may not be able to be productive. And in such cases, we now say that an individual has a mental disorder or a mental illness. So in this definition that we have here, mental disorders are conditions that affect an individual's mood, thought process, and their behavior. And I'll give an example. Normally, what we're used to is someone saying that they're happy or sad. But when you have a mental illness, people can be able to see a wide range of change in your moods. For example, if in the morning you're very happy, in the afternoon you're extremely irritable, in the evening you're down, I mean so sad, then we can say that something is not okay. Or probably people are looking at you and you are elated, and the kind of conversations that you are engaging in probably don't make a lot of sense to them, then that could be termed as a problem. And then with regards to our thoughts, when it reaches a point that an individual starts having thoughts of suicide or thoughts of killing someone else, or they have negative thought pattern, as we say, then we can clearly say that there is a mental disorder. And behavior, when you look at an individual and how they behave, does not relate with what's normal. And this varies from society to society. So I'll give an example. When you walk out of your house, you walk out dressed to go and do your daily activity. But one time you meet with someone who's naked, I mean, they're walking in the streets and they have no clothes at all. What comes into your mind is, no, this is not normal. Or it's extremely hot and an individual has 6 pullovers on, or they're putting on a lot of clothes, then you can be able to say that that particular behavior is not okay. So generally, examples of mental disorders include depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. We have bipolar mood disorders. We cannot be able to mention all of it today. So it's good to understand that we also have different classification of mental disorders, which we will shortly look into. So what are some of the causes of mental illnesses? Research actually shows that no particular cause brings, like nobody can be able to say that this particular thing causes a mental illness, but they say that a combination of different factors may predispose an individual to a mental ill health. And we will start with genetic factors. So now when you come from a family with a history of an individual who suffered a mental illness, you stand a high chance of suffering it yourself. And this does not mean that if your mom or dad or sibling had a mental illness, you'll automatically have it. What it basically means is that you are highly predisposed. Then we have life experiences, things such as stress or history of abuse. We've heard of these people who are in abusive relationships or abusive marriages. Such kind of things can predispose an individual to a mental ill health. And we have extreme circumstances and disasters, such as, let's use an example of tsunamis or earthquakes, or currently what is happening in the Ukraine. That is something that can predispose an individual to a mental illness. So we have biological factors, and we can give an example of chemical imbalances in the brain. There are different chemicals in the brain that are responsible for our moods, why we are happy, why we are sad. And such kind of chemicals include serotonin, dopamine. I don't want to use ambiguous terms that will lose you. But when these chemicals are imbalanced in your brain, then it can predispose an individual to a mental illness. Then we have things such as alcohol and substance use. When you use substances in excess, you can induce a mental illness. We have serious medical conditions like cancer. So when an individual is diagnosed with cancer normally, it comes with a lot of fear of the unknown, among other things. And we all know what it takes an individual for them to be able to go through the whole process of managing cancer. It's hectic. And such kind of conditions can also predispose an individual to a mental illness. And last but not least, having few friends and feeling lonely or isolated. We all know that human beings are social beings. So when it reaches a point that an individual does not socialize as it's supposed to be, then an individual stands a high chance of developing a mental illness. And this can highly be associated with depression. We can move on. Okay, so this other slide is just to elaborate on the hormones that we had talked about and mental health. And as I was saying earlier on, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, norepinephrine, all those kind of hormones are responsible for balancing our moods and the stability of our moods, such that when they are imbalanced, then it means that an individual is likely to suffer a mental illness. that's it. So different medical illnesses are also can also be related to mental ill health, and we can go through the medication use. There are other medications when taken, an individual can be in a state of euphoria, something that is common for individuals with mental illnesses, or delirium. So some medication may cause some symptoms of mental illnesses. Diseases such as diabetes, actually when an individual is diagnosed with diabetes, because diabetes comes with a lot of hormonal imbalances in the body, it can also make an individual exhibit symptoms of mental illnesses. We have diseases such as HIV and AIDS, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, and heart disease, which can be closely linked with mental illnesses. We have hypertension, especially earlier in life, and finally, obesity. Okay, so we'll briefly go through different types of mental illnesses. When we were starting this conversation, I let us all know that mental illnesses are broad. It's something that we cannot discuss only today because we have a wide variety of mental illnesses. And the first one that we are going to look into is anxiety disorders. And I'll also bring it back to the group so that we are not lost. Probably someone who's heard of what an anxiety disorder is can chat and tell us what they understand by an anxiety disorder, or basically anxiety. Back to you, moderator.
Okay. Maybe you can write in the chat box what you think anxiety disorder is, or if you know someone who has experienced that, what did that look like to you? So you can chat, or maybe you can unmute if you want to unmute.
Yes. We can have probably two people unmute and just talk about it.
George has written anxiety equals wasiwasi. So, anxiety, Simon, simply when you expect something so badly, you would wish to get it in the next microsecond, if not immediately. Okay. Afrique's Academy has said anxiety disorder, worrying too much about a situation. Anton has said panic attacks.
Lovely. So at least we have some information of what anxiety disorders is. Even before I put the disorder part, anxiety is basically an emotion that is characterized by extreme worry and fear, and it's also combined with restlessness. So when we add disorder on top of anxiety, then it means that this worry, the fear of the unknown, the restlessness, the trembling, and all that is making an individual dysfunctional, distressed, and poses danger to them. And I like it that someone said panic attacks, because actually panic attacks are some of the things that individuals experience when they have panic disorder. So thank you for that. So I've defined what anxiety disorders are, and we have different forms of anxiety disorders. Like we have social anxiety disorder, we have panic disorders, which is characterized by panic attacks, like someone was mentioned early, and we have generalized anxiety disorders. And for you to be able to understand more on anxiety disorders, then you're supposed to know the different symptoms of anxiety disorders, things such as restlessness, increased heart palpitations, constant worry, fear of the unknown. People with anxiety also are easily irritable, and they're always on the outlook, probably anticipating the worst happening. So those are just some of the symptoms of anxiety. And we have mood disorders. So probably maybe two people can also comment on their own understanding of what a mood disorder is. Moderator?
Yes. Maybe what's a mood disorder? Trying to say, you can maybe comment and the chat box, like I said earlier on, or you can unmute. Let me see if there are any answers so far. Oh, Anton has said rapid mood switches. Oh.
Any other person who's willing to probably just unmute and talk?
Kevin has said mood swings, has it make sense?
I've seen that as well.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone has a different opinion.
Okay, so we can proceed, but you can keep on chatting. So when we talk about mood disorders, these are basically the ailments that bring about changes in an individual's mood. And some symptoms of a mood disorder include low moods every single day or for the most part of the day. So we have the low moods, we have an individual becoming easily irritable, changes in appetite. So an individual may eat too much or eat less. We have changes in sleep patterns where an individual may sleep excessively or lack sleep, or what we commonly call insomnia. And when there are changes in mood, changes in appetite, then you can clearly tell through an individual's physique, you'll realize that they've either lost weight or added a lot of weight due to the changes in appetite. Also, an individual with a mood disorder may have what we call hopelessness. They'll feel that they don't have hope about the future. And such kind of individuals are prone to having suicidal thoughts or even attempting suicide. And sadly, others end up dying by suicide because they are not hopeful, they are low, among other things. And different types of mood disorders include depression, or clinically known as major depressive disorder. We have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which majorly affect women, especially before they go through their menstruation or shortly after. We have what you call postpartum depression, which still affects women, but can also affect men because, especially partners. We also have bipolar mood disorder, which is also common among other mood disorders. We cannot exhaust them today. So the next one is psychotic disorders. Sorry about that. So we have psychotic disorders, which are characterized by loss of touch with reality. This is where individuals exhibit symptoms of hallucinations, delusions, negative behavioral patterns. So that is with psychosis. And an example of psychotic disorders is schizophrenia. We have personality disorders. These are disorders that affect an individual's personality. So here we have things such as narcissistic personality disorders. We have borderline personality disorder, among others. We have developmental disorders, things such as autism spectrum disorder. We have eating disorders, things such as bulimia and anorexia nervosa. Then we have PTSD, commonly known as post-traumatic stress disorder, and impulse control disorders. So we can move to the next slide. Because we cannot clearly exhaust all the mental disorders in one day, we chose to focus today majorly on depression. And the reason why we are focusing on depression is because it is the most common mood disorder and it affects a large number of the population. And this was verified by the research that was conducted, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of cases were registered in different facilities that actually people were depressed as a result of the loss of jobs, among other things. So depression is basically a medical illness characterized by persistently depressed mood, causing impairment in daily life. Like I said before, I said that for you to be told that you have a mood disorder, it has to affect you in 3 ways. Number one, if it causes distress, if it causes dysfunctionality in that you cannot function like you used to before. And the third thing, if it causes danger, when you feel like you want to end your life or another person's life. I'm answering this because I see someone chat on the chat box saying that, oh, kumbe pengine niko na mental illness. No, it's okay to have low moods. It's okay to feel sad sometimes. It's okay to be irritable sometimes. But if it causes distress, dysfunctionality, and danger to you as an individual, then you probably need to talk to someone about it. So depression is more than feeling blue. It is the intensities of feeling sad and about a particular situation or issue. And most of the people who are depressed, sometimes they say they don't even understand why they feel that way. And it's true that they don't know why they are sad or why they are feeling irritable, among other things. Yeah. So there are different facts about depression. And the number one fact is that depression is a reason why different people die by suicide. And right now there's a campaign to say that we should stop using the word commit suicide because it's not a crime. So it's die by suicide. So suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst the age of 15 to 29-year-olds. And research also shows it that over 800,000 of people die by suicide yearly, which is a huge number. And there's one death registered for every 40 seconds. There are more deaths from suicide than from war and homicide together. Is this something that's shocking? Like, it's really, really sad that a lot of people are dying more from suicide than even from war and homicide combined together. And some ways in which people die by suicide, there are people who take pesticides, there are people who hang by rope, and you can see on that picture that you have down there. And there are people who use firearms, and the firearms is majorly registered by people who are in combat, like people in the military or police officers, among others. Yeah. So what depression is not a normal part of aging. There's this common say that I hear people say that, oh, mtu ako na hypertension ni old. Oh, sorry for those who don't understand English. People really say that an old person must have hypertension. And that particular mindset has also been shifted to depression. They tend to say that people with depression are probably aging, or they're also, that is not what depression is. Depression affects everyone, regardless of your age. And depression is definitely not something to be ashamed of. That's why we're having this webinar today, so that you can be able to come out and seek for help if you feel that you've been affected in one way or the other. Depression is not a character flaw, neither is it a sign of weakness. And finally, it's not something you can just snap out of. And this is kind of statement that I've experienced majorly with men. You know, men in the society that we live in, we are trained to be strong and not to show our weakness and not to be vulnerable. And so when you go and tell someone that you feel trapped and all that, they tell you, Bwana, why can't you just snap out of it? So depression is not something that you can just snap out of. That is why we have psychiatrists, we have psychologists who can help you go through it. Okay, I had said that everyone suffers from depression, and depression is so common, and we are going to look into some of the symptoms of depression. And some of the emotional symptoms of depression, as indicated here, we have sadness, loss of interest in activities that an individual used to enjoy, and being overwhelmed when you feel like you can't handle everything at a go. We have anxiety. Anxiety can also be part of depression, and then the inability to concentrate. Under physical symptoms, we have things such as vague aches and pain. A lot of people complain of headaches. They say they have intense headache. They take painkillers, they take medications for migraine, but the pain does not fade away. Then we have sleep disturbances. Sorry about that. So there's significant change in weight where an individual may gain or lose weight. Okay, so we'll go to burnout. But before we go to burnout, maybe we can have 2 people or 3 people talk about it. Today was your day and you were to probably tell us more about burnout. Have you experienced it, especially Zoom fatigue? Do you experience it? And I can see someone type there, where? So Anon, I don't know if you just want to unmute and probably give your thoughts on burnout and Zoom fatigue. Moderator?
Sure. Maybe if someone wants to share an experience before I go, because I think I'm a victim of this constant burnout. So Anon, maybe if you don't unmute, or anyone else, if you'd love to share, considering I know this call, we have techies here, people in cybersecurity, developers, engineers, etc. So I'm sure you have experienced this one time or twice, or maybe it's an order of the day. So maybe someone can share the experience. You can unmute and maybe share with us how you experience, what you felt, what you think about burnout exactly is. So Anon or anyone else, you can take it up. Maybe Kevin, Mike. Yes.
Or as they plan themselves, you can probably also start with your own experience and share with us how it's been and how did you actually know that you're burnt out.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have it's been, well, I think that how to I'm looking for the best word to explain how exactly I felt, but it was really at that point where you feel even mentally you have kind of reached your brim. It's kind of you're at dead end. And I noted mostly it can be physical, it can be mentally, but when it happens, I don't normally function at my highest self. like I'll not be as effective as I would be. So it also comes with a lot of sleep, and I don't know if that's just for me. So I don't know if anyone else would love to share how that felt like. Mostly if you're one person to always working, especially. And I remember when I was starting out in cybersecurity back then, um, considering it's quite a broad field, you feel I don't know this, I need to grasp this concept. Once I grasp that, I feel like I need to understand something else. So back then I remember I was going like at a like 24 hours just working and learning, and wow, it was really big for me. So anyone else would want to maybe share the experience?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Munge Karaoke. Thanks for this conversation. So I'll just go back to the previous slide there. Like when I started off in my career in tech, like I found out like how I didn't really know much what was required of the industry. And as usual, I kicked into overdrive, never used to sleep. And sooner than later, within the second year, it had already catched up with me. Yeah. So, yeah, my eyesight was affected. I used to have crazy migraines. And every time I go to hospital, I'm like, yo, I can't sleep. These migraines are intense. All they used to do was give me sleeping pills and strong painkillers. Yeah. So, however, they used to always tell me these things are not okay. Yeah? And it continued escalating. Yeah. Now I'm going to hospital. I'm like, I feel permanently exhausted. Yeah. Tests are done, everything, nothing is happening. Anxiety attacks started kicking in as well. Yeah? So sooner than later, I had to quit my job. Like I couldn't continue. So I honestly never paid much attention. And now that I'm in this meeting, everything is checking out, and I'm a bit scared. Eh?
Don't be.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. Maybe I'll just read what people are writing in the chat. Oste has said, burnout is real. I experience this a lot. This comes about when I overwork, research, learn stuff, sleep late till working. It reaches a point, let me call it a point of mental saturation where I can't hold content anymore. So I take breaks from learning stuff, distract myself with movies, cycling, workouts, reading books, hiking, traveling, and then come back strong. A change of environment helps. Anton has said, Kwani burnout happens once. I get burnout almost each week. It lasts 2 days until I have to push myself to snap out of it. Once I fell out of the sofa and I was shivering for like an hour. So I think this is something we're all experiencing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, especially Munge. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I want to tell you that don't feel scared, because actually there's a saying that goes that when you have the information, then you become more powerful, in that at least you can be able to know how to navigate around it. So it's good that you're having this conversation, because you can be able to know how best to cope with the burnout, or probably what it has caused as a result. So burnout is just generally a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. And there's someone who's written it somewhere that you find yourself falling off the sofa because probably you're working on a project and you couldn't do it anymore and you dozed off. And it is also as a result of excessive and prolonged emotional, physical, and mental stress. So it's actually not true that burnout happens at once. It's something that has been piling up over a period of time. And I love that there are different people who are saying that when they entered into this job industry, they didn't know it, or they didn't know how to go about other issues. And so you force yourself, or you go that extra mile, wanting to gather knowledge, wanting to Google about a concept, or probably ask someone to help you know about that particular concept, but to a point that you lose yourself in the process. Sometimes, especially when you're young, you want to know as much as possible and be competent. This is something that is actually shown in people who are type A achievers. This kind of people who require perfection, the kind of people who feel that for them to prosper, then they have to give it their all. So they end up going beyond limits. And if they're not careful, then they can be able to reach what we call mental saturation, like someone was saying it, or a limit that they cannot go beyond. So in many cases, burnout is related to one's job. And you can tell that different people in this job industry at SheHacks have at one particular point, or right now, they are experiencing burnout. So it happens when you are overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to keep up with life incessant demands. And I also love it that someone said that it reached a point that they were like, you know what, my mind, you're tired. I can't keep on doing this. So I need a break. And that is what you're going to learn. How can you be able to take a break and say that enough is enough, so that you can recharge and go back working and being productive like you should. So, yes. So we are quickly going to run through symptoms of burnout. So burnout comes with sense of failure and self-doubt, especially for someone who really wants to gather it all within a short period of time. You're doing a lot of things, and then you just realize that everything goes down crumbling. So you start doubting yourself. And self-doubt, when we get deep into it again, you see that when you constantly have self-doubt, then it means that it begins to now damage your self-esteem. So burnout also makes an individual feel helpless, trapped and defeated, because you reach a point where you don't know where to go. Then there's detachment, feeling alone in the world, where now an individual will choose to stay in the house, close the doors and be by themselves. Loss of motivation, because at this particular point you are unproductive, or yet you feel unproductive. So it brings about loss of motivation. There is reduced performance and productivity, which our today's moderator talked about, that at one particular point she felt that she could not perform like she should because she was burnt out. It also brings about anxiety. You'll start wondering, oh no, I can't deliver. And so what if I lose my job? What if I'm sacked? Such kind of things. And those thought patterns are clearly symptoms of anxiety. It also brings about detachment from your environment, from reality. It makes an individual feel listless. Then it also comes with low moods. And finally, procrastination. I don't know how many people have experienced this. When you're burnt out, you keep on saying, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day. Or other people have what we call shiny object syndrome. When you're burnt out, you'll be like, let me put this aside. Let me do that which is interesting. So you drop this task, you jump into another one that is interesting until it ceases to be interesting again. Or other people will be like, oh no, I'm too lazy to do it. So those are some of the symptoms of burnout that you really need to watch. But I think people have also talked about what they've experienced personally. So I see someone say mpatane nyuma ya tent. So okay. So I think you're tagging your friend, but that's fine. So we can go to Zoom fatigue quickly. So Zoom fatigue is basically a general feeling of mental fatigue and exhaustion caused by video conferencing. And we don't even have to go through video conferencing, because people who are software developers, people who are constantly on their laptops, like you guys, experience these a lot, because number one, you have to pay your bills. And so when you're using your laptop, that is the only way you can be able to pay your bills. Or as a result, I don't know if most of you now are working from home. And if you're doing so, then it means that 3/4 part of your day, you do it on your screen. So you can get what you call mental fatigue as a result. So being in front of the camera all day, or when required to take part in multiple video calls each day, will ultimately take a toll on you as an individual, and it will bring down your mental stamina. So it's something that you really need to be on the lookout for, and we'll see how you can be able to do that. Next slide. All right. So what are some of the way out of Zoom fatigue? Before we go to this slide, maybe those who've also experienced it, kindly just chat with us and tell us, how have you been able to cope with this? And I want to start with you, moderator, because you're talking about the point where you felt unproductive. So how did you ensure that you went back to your productivity? Tell us. And then other people can also comment.
Wow. Being on the spot is actually totally different. Okay, so myself, I just learned how to manage my time well. I realized I don't have to be on my machine 24 hours to actually be really good at what I do. So I kind of got intentional. If I have like 10 hours, 10 working hours, I'll make sure I'm fully working, right? I'm not like on my phone or doing something else. If I'm studying, if I'm like having 5 hours to study, I'll be very intentional about that, so that later on I can have time to rest. And even right now, I have been very intentional about that. If I have like days where I work and I have like weekend, Saturday and Sunday to just kind of rest. So I think that discipline, it took time, because again, you have to be very conscious. You don't get complacent. So I think drawing that line, that boundary, that you're not exerting yourself too much, at the same time you're not sleeping on yourself. I think it takes time to master. That's my experience.
Lovely, lovely. I love the point where you're talking about time management, important. I have worked with software developers before, and I want to ask, do you guys sleep? Maybe those who are into software developing can tell us, because it is always JavaScript, and then you get a concept and then you're like, oh, what if I continue and get this other concept? Before you know it, it's done. So please tell us, do you sleep? But our moderator is telling us today that you should be able to manage your time effectively. I think time management is of essence, and the only way that you can be able to do so is by creating schedules. You can create a schedule so that you know that between this time and this time, I'm supposed to be doing this specific project. And you break down your work into tiny workable portions. Don't forget to eat because you're doing something. Don't forget to also take breaks, like she's saying, that she's decided that probably weekends is her time for rest. Self-care is important. You cannot be able to deliver if you don't take time to relax and kupigia mwili pole, like we say it in quote. Just being able to take care of your physical self, among others. So any other comments? Someone else want to tell us how they've been dealing with Zoom fatigue or burnout? Do we have any chats in the box?
I think Billy has commented. He has said ideas arrive at nighttime. I'm sure he's a dev.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that point. Thank you for bringing it up, the time management. And when we're also talking about it, there's someone who talked about exercising. It's really, really important to take time, go exercise. Did you know that every time you exercise, your brain releases a chemical called oxytocin, which is actually good for your mental health? Oxytocin actually is a feel-good hormone. Every time you exercise, it lightens up your mood. Or every time you do things that you love, like engage in your hobbies or meet friends, do fun activities, that particular chemical is released by your brain and it will keep you happy all day. So exercising is important for people who are great at doing yoga and meditating. Do it. And as you do it, also be intentional about it. There's also taking brief breaks. You cannot sit on your machine from morning to evening, really. You'll die of burnout. You can take brief breaks in between, say lunch break, snack break, just stand in your room, stretch. I wish I could be able to do it physically next time. So you can just stretch and take brief breaks. Then there's the point of consider if video conferencing is needed. You don't have to join every video conference. And sometimes when you feel that there's that fatigue, then you can also just put the video off and listen, because if staying on the screen for a long period of time is taking a toll on you or even affecting your eyes, then something is not okay. And I don't know what you have to comment about it, but I also hear there's what we call anti-glare screen protection that you can use to help protect your eyes. You can also help me with that because this field is yours. And then advocate for yourself when you feel fatigued. And I think this is something that you can take up with your bosses. You need time to rest. Call them, let them know that, sir or madam, I'm not up to doing my task today. Could you kindly just lend me some few hours off and then I do the job later on? I'm pretty sure they are understanding and they can be able to help you. And under making video conferencing easier, you can probably, I think we've talked about it. It comes under the consideration of video conferencing, or if you're in a video conference, you can still put the video off and just use the audio. And those are some of the ways that you can use to avoid Zoom fatigue. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so what are some of the treatment strategies to depression? So treatment strategies for depression include you being able to connect with others. I mentioned that human beings are social beings, and so we need connectivity as much as possible. Express yourself through writing, or we call it journaling. So if you have a journal and you're not able to talk to someone at the time, you can just write it down in your journal, exactly how you feel and how you feel. Improve your diet. Do not eat a lot of junky food. Please take a well-balanced diet. Get regular exercise. We've talked about this. And seek psychotherapy, where you can be able to know how to change your cognition, your behavior, and how to develop interpersonal skills through interpersonal therapy. Then they say that challenge any negative thought patterns, especially for people who have negative thinking patterns. They're the kind of people who, when you're around them, they're always predicting doom. They're always saying, oh, dunia itaisha kesho, or I'm going to die the next minute, the world is coming to an end, such kind of things. So you should be able to challenge these negative thoughts. I am not trying to say that ignore them. Actually, for you to be able to challenge negative thoughts, first accept that that is how you're experiencing. Then after accepting, understand how it makes you feel, because most of the time when you feel like you're going to die, then it affects you physically and emotionally too. And then try looking for evidence. Is it really true that you're going to die? Then if you come up with results that it's not true, then you can be able to dispute those thoughts and shift the focus of your mind to focus on the positive things in your life. And then we have getting regular sleep hours. And this is for all of you guys. You should learn how to sleep kindly. So sleep. So by sleeping regularly, you will avoid making your feelings of depression even worse. So you should be able to actually get good sleep. The next slide. Yes, so we actually have a sleep hygiene here. We can't go through all of it because of interest of time, but I'll share the slides and you can be able to know how you as an individual can actually exercise good sleep hygiene. You engage yourself in habits that promote good night sleep. How many people go to their beds with their laptops and phones? By show of hands. Or you can chat down there. So don't go to your bed with your phone or your laptop. When you're staring at your laptop or your phone, it will be impossible for you to get sleep. Keep your bedroom quiet and dark. You'll be able to sleep well. And then avoid stimulation from screen. We've talked about that, especially before sleep. Keep gadgets away from your bedtime. And please avoid coffee or tea and alcohol, because it's actually bad for some people, especially those who already are suffering from depression or have symptoms of depression. And then being able to understand that insomnia may be a sign of depression or anxiety. So if you're the kind of person who cannot get sleep at all, then you may want to look for David and I after this talk is over. All right, so how we can be able to survive, especially for those who already suffering from depression. You need to have reliable support from your family in particular. Then be socially connected. I think I've talked about this more than 3 times. Exercise emotional self-regulation, good coping skills, look for better ways of coping. We've talked about exercising. Here we have problem solving skills, actually be able to solve problems effectively, subjective sense of self-sufficiency, and be optimistic. And you can be able to get out of a tough situation. Yes. So points to remember. So as we come to an end, I want you to remember that, number 1, mental health is not the absence of a disease. And we defined what mental health is. And good mental health is achievable. And the way you can only be able to achieve good mental health is by actually knowing who you are, developing high degree of self-awareness, knowing yourself, accepting yourself for who you are, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. Then you'll be able to achieve good mental health. Please understand that mental illness is common. So when someone comes and tells you that they're feeling a particular way, don't tell them they've been bewitched or they've been those weird things that we tell our friends. Please stop it. What we can be able to do is lend a listening ear to them, because mental illness is common. And today I want you to know that it is treatable and manageable. Where I work at, David also will let you know, we are able to manage a wide variety of people with different mental illnesses. That can be done through therapy, and medication, and you can be able to achieve that quality of life that you want for yourself. And please also note that early diagnosis and treatment are key for you to be able to get good outcomes. Don't sit in your room, don't stay isolated because you feel bad or because you feel that people will judge you. Come talk to someone and you'll be able to achieve good outcomes. And finally, physical and mental health go together. And as I wind up, I want to say that I'm happy to be with you today. I want you to remember that there is no health without mental health. And in as much as you're experiencing burnout, fatigue, among other challenges that you're experiencing, you can be able to talk to someone about it and you'll be able to seek good treatment. So thank you and have a blessed evening. Back to you, moderator.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Claire, for that. I think we've been able to kind of pick where exactly the problem has been or what exactly we have been dealing with. So I think I'll invite David. David, I'm sure maybe you have something to share.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Nancy. And thank you, Claire. It was really a good conversation. Presentation was nice, and I think people have learned a lot. So I'll talk a little bit about Doctor's Life, yeah. So I remember 2 years ago in the middle of pandemic, I looked for a psychologist and I couldn't find any. It took me 2 weeks to book for an appointment, and the price was extremely expensive, and because my insurance couldn't cover for it. This is the same situation that many Kenyans and youth are facing. They're unable to find therapists even to afford the treatment. So that's why, as Doctors Live, we are here. So we are here to offer the most comprehensive virtual mental health care solutions for individuals and organizations. So in case you need help, we are here to help you. In case your organization needs mental health support, we are here to support you. Through our platform, you can actually access mental health care. We are building a feature to make it 24/7, but currently you can get it. You can download the app and book an appointment with a accredited therapist. We put your health first. It's easy access of mental health support, so you can just have your app, talk to anyone you want. You have a variety of choices. We provide providers and therapists from various backgrounds. So the good thing with us is that you can book a therapy with anyone you want, and then you can be able to talk in any language you want. So if you want to speak in Swahili, in Kikuyu, on our platform, you can still find therapists who will help you do that. And then you get it in the privacy of your home, because there's still stigma and discrimination around mental health. So we provide you this platform to get it wherever you are. Also, our therapists are professional and licensed by the Kenya Association for Professional Counselors. We really aspire to a world where we can refer any psychologist within our network to our friends and family. So that's why we are putting a strong emphasis on the practice and the ethics of our providers on our platform. So currently we are running a promotion where we are giving the first-time users a free therapy session. So if you need help, feel free to download our app. Currently, it's still on Android only. The iOS version is coming very soon, but you can download and get help, talk to any psychologist you want for free. Our prices, we charge 1,500 because we are targeting mostly youth, because especially university students and young professionals to use our platform and to get help on Doctor's Life. I don't know if there's any question in the audience. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there's any.
Maybe I do have a question about the platform.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'll go with what is in the chat first. Someone is asking, is it 500 per session?
1500. Sorry, it's 1500 per session. Yeah.
Okay. So my question was,
Yeah.
you have said that, okay, like can the therapy sessions be online, or what's the criteria around that? Are they online or like physically with the psychologist?
Thank you. So the therapy is online. You get a virtual therapy on our platform with any provider you want. So if you download the app right now, you can book an appointment with Claire and talk to her virtually. But in case of someone needs a physical one, we still provide a way of a way for the client and therapist to meet and for the client to get therapy. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if there are any other questions in regards to that. Billy has shared the link to download the app.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there are any other things in regards to the app. It's an amazing
I wanted
solution.
to add just something. That's for those who have I've gone through a therapy, like myself, yeah, you actually get some assignments from your therapist, some content to go through or to read or exercise to do. In our platform, we are offering such contents because if you go to our platform, we have a chatbot that you can use. We have a self-care journal you can use as well to remind yourself how grateful you are about your life, what you'd like to change in your life. We have also some meditational video and content, and many more are coming as we go along. And we are open to any collaboration. If anyone in the Zoom in the meeting would like to collaborate with us and work with us, we are open for that. And your feedback as well are highly welcome. So we'd like to hear from you and what you think about what we are trying to build.
Okay, maybe I'll read the next question. Someone has asked, what are the privacy measures installed in the platform?
Thank you very much. So first of all, our data, the basic data for the patient we are getting is they are encrypted. So that's the name and the email address and the password. So those are the form like the data we collect from our user just for credentials so that they can log in and access the platform. Other data are encrypted. And also our psychologists are very ethical. They respect our client's privacy. So no data is shared outside the platform, and we don't collect any data from our users.
Okay, I don't know if there are any other questions in regards to someone is asking how they can reach Claire.
Okay, so I can share the email in the chat. So like in case you need to talk to Claire or any provider within our network on our platform, in case you don't have the app or you have an iOS version, an OS phone, so you can just email us and we'll connect you to one of our provider. Oh, sorry, I think I didn't share to everyone. Yes, that the email, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, David. I feel this really takes off the burden, considering mental health is something, it's a conversation most people are not willing to have. And having this option whereby I can talk to a therapist from the comfort of my home and ensure that our conversations are confidential, I really feel it's a really great solution. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, maybe I'll go through the questions that had been asked. I can see.
Yeah,
So yeah, someone had commented, I think I saw, or someone had commented, Anton had commented that for me, burnout is a thrill. It's a proof of productivity to myself, and I manage it by having a nice weekend. Maybe if you'd have something to tell to someone who maybe shares the same thoughts before I read the next one. Either you or Claire can take that up.
yeah, I think Claire can take that up. Also, I wanted to mention something as well, like we are looking for young talent to join our team. In case there's anyone who would be interested in software engineering, mobile development, you can just email us and we'll get in touch with them. Yeah.
Perfect. You can reach out to, he has shared the email, so please do reach out to him if that you are interested in. So Claire, maybe you would I don't know, look into that question in case there are people who feel that burnouts are kind of a badge of honor, like I've not done much until I'm burnt out. So what would you advise them?
Okay, I think we had already talked about it. And we said that when it reaches a point where you feel that you can't do it anymore. And we've talked about some of the symptoms of burnout as well, like unproductivity, not being able to probably achieve the best, and among other things that people talked about. When you feel like, in fact, it has reached a point where you are constantly sad, you're easily irritable, you don't feel like even hanging out with your friends, you've lost interest in activity that you previously used to enjoy, then it means that you really need to take a break and do something about it. But I'll say this again, what is a thrill anyway? Because there's limit to this thrill. It will reach a point that you may be in such a dark place that you may not know how to come out of it, or by that time it may be pretty much late. So I'm just trying to think that burnout is not something that's positive. For now, it may make you get the thrill and make you productive, but over a period of time, it may result to something that is not great. So from where I am at, it's something that the person may really need to work on or look into.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. There's another question. What is the procedure to follow for a certified counseling psychologist who would want to work with you?
Thank you very much. We have a set of criteria we take so that we can onboard someone on the platform. But the first step is to send an email to us, and we'll move from there to send you all details and link you can use to send your application. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that answers the question, Wanjiku. Someone else had asked, I think there's a question. Does poor ergonomics affect an engineer's mental health?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we all reach a point where we'd really wish to be able to take care of our financial needs. I hope finances, I hope finances is still part of an individual's economic status. So if you're not able to take care of your basic needs, if you're not able to pay for your bills, live the life that you desire to live, it only brings about frustration, among other things. So it's actually true that it can affect you. And when we also try to look at the socioeconomic status of our country at this particular point, there are different jobs that you as an engineer would wish to like charge a particular amount. So if you go work and you know that is the amount that you'd wish to charge, and you end up not charging that or getting less, you'll become frustrated. So issues to do with economics, issues to do with the environment, issues to do with an individual's personality combined can surely affect an individual's mental health. I hope that was answered.
Bill, I hope that answers the question. If you don't have any more questions, maybe we'll come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, Claire, for the insightful gems you've shared with us today. And thank you so much, David, as well, for planning this, making this possible, and for sharing more about Doctors Live. I think we now have a broader idea of what it does, and I'm sure in case of anything, people will definitely reach out. I personally love the platform. So thank you so much for making time for us today. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us today as well. Thank you for staying throughout the session. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I believe it's been engaging and we have all learned something. So at this point, maybe we'll just come to the end of the session. See you guys on Tuesday next week for the next campus edition session. Have a lovely night.
Thank you,
Good
Nancy.
night.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.